Hey, it's good to be with you here. My name's Gary Wilkerson, and this is the Gary Wilkerson Podcast. I'm here with Matt and Deanne Ward. Thank you guys for coming in and spending some time with us today. Let me tell our friends that are listening a little bit about you guys. Matt and Deanne have been involved in ministry and in missions for many, many years. We met each other when we were teenagers, really, in a little town called Lindale, Texas, where there's a whole bunch of ministries going on. My father, David Wilkerson, was there. You guys, second chapter of Acts, had your own headquarters, ministry headquarters there. Keith Green, Leonard Ravenhill, Youth of the Mission. Another group called Agape Force. You remember Agape Force?
Dallas Home and Praise.
Dallas Home and Praise.
Yeah.
But Matt, you were the voice of the ages. Incredible musician and singer. And Deanne, you come from some people know Matt and maybe not as familiar, but you come from a ministry family as well. Weren't your family involved in missions?
They served our community for years. I learned a lot about serving, which is why I went into ministry. By watching my parents. My dad would go down to the inner city and play basketball and take donuts and take milk and then do Bible study and just kind of hung out and fourth generation charismaniac.
Fourth generation, wow.
Have pictures of my great grandparents, black and whites, hands in the air.
In the 50s.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're all just in a
Bible study in
worshiping.
their house. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Same
neat.
as you, Assembly of God.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. All right.
Summer camp.
Grew up in the church.
Awanas.
Yeah.
Christian schools.
Wow. Yeah, we have a lot in common. You have three daughters at this time. You have three girls. And what were your daughters like growing up?
Crazy little creatures. They were really fun. It's been funny to watch them over the years change. My youngest daughter, Maddie, who was just an outside animal. She reminded me of me at her age. Always outside, ride her bike everywhere, climbing trees. She'd be like, I'd be somewhere in the backyard, and we were on a slight hill. I was on a deck on the second story one day, and I hear this voice, "Hi, Dad." And I'm like, what in the world? I can't find her. She was in the front yard, up in a tree, eye level with me. So she was 35 feet in the air. This little kid just like swinging off these. I'm like, just stay right there, sweetheart. Right there.
Deanne, would you come get her daughter back?
Honey, good. Yeah. So, but she was always, and when she got older, she totally flipped. I mean, she like hated to be outside, hated to go camping, didn't want to go fishing, just hated all that. But when she was a kid, she loved it. So I don't know, something switched in her.
Texas is warm outside. Colorado's cool.
Cold.
There you
She
go.
stayed inside.
Yeah. And then, Morgan, our middle daughter, wow, I don't even know what to. She was always adventurous-ish.
The peacemaker.
But she was the peacemaker, yeah. She was the middleborn, definitely, and tried to make things better and figure
very
things out.
observant and aware of everything, and felt things very deeply, even young.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I watched her do all the things that as a dad I didn't want her to do, but she did anyway. Just different things, she's and then my oldest daughter she grew up the super conservative Bible thumper. She had 5 boys. The last one, I guess, I'd never heard of such a thing, but caused her to have, what do they call it? Hormonally induced bipolar. And we can get into that. That's a whole nother story.
But all the girls are musical.
Yeah.
We just had a lot of fun as a family with them growing up. Vacation with you and your kids.
Yeah.
So,
We spent almost a whole month together in Hilton Head. That was a blast.
That was a blast.
Yeah, we had such fun.
Blockbuster.
Yeah.
And Ashley carrying Annie on his shoulders.
Our son. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just kind of continuing this theme is maybe the hardest part of our time here together. Obviously because it's easier to talk about things that happened 20 years ago than things that happened last year. But this trajectory of your guys' life of amazing success in ministry and relationships and your guys' marriage, but yet your daughter she started experiencing after this, probably because maybe after her 5th child, bipolar. She started kind of finding herself in some difficult situations, a lot like my son with all of my kids, whether it be drugs or alcohol and stuff like that. So she started having some difficulties. Is that, I don't know if you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. I mean, I just
she Megan passed away in December, is when we found out.
33.
At 33 years old, and she and her husband had been divorced. They divorced in August, but she had struggled from the time probably she got pregnant with number 5. Just didn't seem herself, seemed more tired. Now she, up until that point, I call her Wonder Woman.
Right.
You know, she
Yeah.
5 boys,
Saw
she
that in her.
homeschooled, she was the worship leader. He's in the Air Force, so his squadron would come over and she would host them and do dinners. She just did it so well for 12 years. And then it was like she just hit the wall and couldn't go anymore. I mean, it happened quick, she crashed quick, and she
was
passed
doing a lot.
away.
She was doing a lot on her own. As you
She
watch her
was.
life, with us raising 5 kids, or obviously a military type person is gone probably quite a bit, and that's a lot of weight on somebody. And
Yeah. So she started. She had abused alcohol for a while. We now know, but she drank a lot. She had physical issues. She had her gallbladder taken out after the 4th baby. She had liver issues, kidney issues. March 2017, she was in the hospital for 10 days. Now, you've had back surgery, you've had cancer, people have heart surgery. They're out in a couple. So that was my first flag, was that she was seriously physically ill. But why, I didn't know, or what the outcome was going to be, I didn't know. But I believe her physical body was just shutting down from tiredness, 5 boys, and she was drinking. And then she continued to drink, so she went to several rehabs and some sober livings, and they were divorced, and she moved into an apartment here in Colorado Springs. And it was just, you've mentioned your kids, we have other friends that have kids. If you put all of our friends together for the last 20 years, and there's 5 couples and there's 20 kids, Megan would not have made the top 10 list. Was not even...
in what way? What do you mean?
Of somebody who would
That you'd be concerned
struggle with
about.
alcohol or
Right.
pass away at
Right.
33.
Yeah.
That just, I
Be
mean,
the least likely.
Yeah.
That was what I was getting at when I
Yeah.
said I do have things in my life where I do say, why me?
Okay.
This doesn't make any sense. I don't get it, God. That Megan's passing and the way she passed by herself in her apartment, I can't get past that. Can't do it. And I don't get it. It's all the woulda, coulda, shouldas, I mean, what I did do didn't work, obviously. She's not with us. So you play those games. Like, well, maybe I should have, what if we...
yeah.
It was hard on us. That's
still
one of
is.
that's our biggest thing right now as a couple is just, God, if we could have just been able to do this for her, because we weren't at a place where we could really do much
Right.
more than what we were doing.
All right. Oh, no, you
that
guys
made it hard.
Kelly, my wife Kelly and I, we watched you guys just time after time, just doing everything, loving. And I was just on, we did just one of our previous podcasts on with the director of, the president of Global Teen Challenge. And I was so encouraged because, because we've had the addictions in our family and the troubles, and, didn't know whether or not we'd get that phone call and our son had overdosed and stuff. And so, and one of the things that Jerry Nance was saying was, and it blessed me, was like that, a lot of those who come through Teen Challenge, young adults, have had, abusive upbringings, neglect, divorce. But he says about 15% of them come from these amazing, loving, tender God. And it felt so good. It was almost like, because for a long time I think I'd felt guilty, like there must be some unknown thing I don't know about my life, my family, my upbringing.
What is it about me that's causing my children
Right.
not to succeed?
Yeah. And I was so, yes, exactly. Yeah. What did I do
That's
wrong?
tough. Right.
And I was so encouraged by this guy that knows more than anybody probably in the world,
Yeah.
saying like about 15% of the time you can't put your finger on anything. And so as I look at your guys' life, I mean, obviously we look back and say, cool, like you said, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Yeah. I have hundreds of things I would do different with my kids, bringing them up. But what parent doesn't?
Right.
And so but you felt, I don't know. I wish I could have formed this question better, but like, what have you been feeling in the last? Because it's been 9 months now.
Yeah.
9 months.
It backed up before that. I can tell you one of the things that was new for us, because the word says a house divided cannot stand. So a lot of times in the church or any denomination, it's like you have to be on the same page. And we were not on the same page the last 6 months of Megan's life, because I text her. I went out to lunch with her. She'd show up in my office, sometimes put together, sometimes not. And his conversation with Megan was, when you stay sober for 90 days, we can resume our relationship.
Yeah, I was doing the tough love thing, and
He did the tough love thing.
She was just doing any kind of love that she could give her. Yeah.
And because we took a different approach, we were not a house divided. I gave him the freedom to make his decision. Right. He gave me the freedom to make my decision. Yeah. And I think we don't allow Christians to do that. Right. I don't have to agree with him, but I supported that, and he supported mine. Yeah. And that was probably the best thing, because I think if I would have, at that point, if I would have forced him to do lunch with her and she would have shown up drunk, he would have been mad at me, mad at her, frustrated again. And if he would have said, sweetie, until she's sober, you just can't, that would have paralyzed me. Right, yeah. So we have to give friends, siblings, spouses, trust that they're mature enough to hear God for themselves, which they all are, and allow them the freedom to do what God calls them to do.
That's really
in those in those relationships.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah.
And that was a huge one that last year, to realize we're not going to be on the same page, and that's okay. That's not a negative. Right. He had his road with her, and I had mine. Yeah. And I wish I would have done more. But that's the one thing. I get up every day. And you've been through stuff. I get up this first time in years, I get up and I'm like, okay, what day is it? What month is it? It's still just it's a fog.
Yeah, your head's spinning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I get up and I choose. I choose to trust God today, because right now it doesn't make sense. It doesn't.
And I think for me, one of the things that I'm grappling with and starting to process a bit more, I've done a few concerts since Megan's passing, not much, and I've spoken about, I think I've done 3 or 4 concerts, 4. And at all of them I've talked about Megan's passing and stuff, and then I've talked a little bit about, at least in my view, and I think it's accurate, it just seems like the church has got to pull its, clothes on or think differently, because part of Megan's problem and the way that she wasn't really able to process her illness and all that was because she had well-meaning Christians around her that said, well, you don't need to take those drugs to help you with your problems upstairs in your head. Just trust Jesus. He'll, and of course, I believe, I've seen it. I've prayed for people. I've talked to you about that before. Prayed for people that were terminally ill, and God healed them instantly. Yeah. Right before my eyes, like, holy cow. So I know God can do it. I don't know. That was C.S. Lewis's thing. I don't know why he doesn't sometimes and does other times. Don't know. But my thing is, man, the church needs to grow up, and we need to stop putting these false weights on people with their faith and all this stuff. I believe God has put doctors on this planet. I think they do call it practicing medicine for a reason, because they're all just practicing. But I think it's important for us to seek help when we need it, and not just turn a blind eye and we just believe that it's all going to be good. Well, for Megan, it wasn't all better. And she had people that were talking her out of taking things that I think probably could have and should have helped her. All right. And so I'm a little mad about that.
Yeah.
I've had some really good counselors.
So,
Dr. Tim Clinton, him, and other people that I know that they've spent years researching this and years looking into it. And I think the thing that just keeps coming back to mind right now is that she was shamed. Yeah. She was shamed from getting help, shamed from acknowledging her stuff. And now we carry that. Like, good parents don't bury kids.
Yeah.
But I did.
Yeah.
What did we do wrong? What could we have done differently or better?
I think you're spot on with the shame keeping somebody from being healed.
Yeah.
Because shame, the very thing you need to be healed is vulnerability, to go to a group of trusted people and say, and usually it can't be our parents, because there's a different dynamic in that relationship, right. but a close friend or two that you can go to and say, here's what I'm suffering, here's the pain. And that's why things like AA are so powerful, Celebrate Recovery, right. Because you get in a group setting and you open up your heart, because
there's support there.
Yeah, there's support,
right.
and the vulnerability is the very thing that dismisses the shame. It gets shame, so the shame stays there, and then that somebody who is struggling with any kind of addiction, shame is the thing that is probably the like the log on the fire. It's the fuel, it's the coal, and that so that's I think you're absolutely right that if we could have a culture in the church where you could openly say things and not get either that sort of Sunday schoolish kind of like believe this verse, or the opposite of the withdrawal, or our friend Nate Larkin, who has talked on his podcast before, and we've had conversations with him about the shame he had when he was addicted to pornography. He would tell his pastor about that, and we get like shamed. Next week's sermon would be on men who are struggling with pornography and how they don't belong in the church, and it's just like shame was much worse than and that just drives the addictions and the pain and the sorrows that make us need something to cover up the pain even worse. And so I'm really sorry that she went through that. And I know she didn't get that at home, because you guys, I've been in your home a lot, and it is a shame-free environment. You guys, and out of all the Christians I know in the world, you are the most yourself of anybody I've ever met. And that's what I like about you guys. It's because I'm in a lot of Christian homes, and you travel a lot, and you get invited over for a meal or whatever. And there's this, sometimes you feel like you're in this place of pretense, like everybody's like happy and everybody's. Everybody knows.
Got to put on that certain face for this certain group of people, right, and then when they're not there, then you can hang out with your friends, take the mask off. But you are yourselves, and that's so your kids grew up in that environment. Well, in you guys telling the story, I didn't tell this to you before we met here today, because I've asked you to probably for the last 3 or 4 months, been asking are you ready yet? Do you want to tell your story? And then you started telling your story when you go sing places and stuff. Are you ready yet to tell your story? Because I think the story needs to be heard, because there's so many people that are, maybe are asking the why question or afraid to ask the why question, so they're not being open. And you guys are telling your story so powerfully. But the reason I want to do it sooner rather than later is because there's something about our vulnerability and our telling our story that in the church world we seem to think we have to wait until we have it all resolved. And I kind of really wanted to get you guys this is
here.
What we've found.
Right.
Yeah, here's the answer. And now and I just wanted you guys to be in here and be able to say, it's like, we don't have it all resolved. We don't have it all figured out. I don't know why. And be able to say, that's okay. That's
right.
Like, you don't have to have it resolved. We see through a glass darkly, so we're not going to have all the answers right now. But G.K. Chesterton says that what we want is to wake up every morning and have a general at the foot of our bed saying, get up and do this and do that, right, and go here. And what we get is Jesus at the foot of our bed saying, once upon a time. And what he was saying is God reveals himself to us much more in story as it unfolds, not in commands like, today you will do this and you will be better and you will feel this. It's like, but what we really want is to somebody say, here's what happened, and here's why, and here's that. Now I want you to feel this way about it. And that usually doesn't happen. It's once upon a time, we had a little girl, and then that little girl, had 5 beautiful children, and then she had this season, and the story is like, can you tell us the next chapter now, because we want to know more.
Well, we said yes to doing this because we realized we're never gonna be okay.
Yeah. I
don't think we'll ever get it together.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
That's okay, right.
But, there's a scripture that, but where else can we go? You have the words of life, right?
Yeah.
Wherever that is.
Yeah.
Was it one of the disciples said that?
Yes. Yeah,
was it the shoe salesman dude, or the guy that made the suitcases? I can't remember.
The 13th
but one of the
disciple that was
the 13th disciple, Gluteus. He was
Gluteus Maximus.
Yes. He was very famous back then. Yeah. Anyway, so... But where else would we go? I mean, I don't say that just like we throw scriptures around, again, like we were talking about. But that has meaning to me, because I have seen enough pain and enough hurt and enough of me trying to redirect those things when I realize I can't put them anywhere profitable except at the feet of Christ.
Yeah, good.
That's the only place those things that I don't understand.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm resolved with it, but I'm letting him bear that weight.
Yeah.
Because I know that he knows I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
And so I encourage people that if they're dealing with mental problems, physical problems, whatever, get help. Addiction problems, and addiction can be anything: food, drugs, pornography, whatever it is, gambling. I mean, I had a friend that was totally addicted to gambling.
Yeah,
I mean,
stuff can
it's a
ruin your
weird
life,
thing that
yeah.
it just ruined them,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And but just seek out help. There's people out there that have a lot more brains than I do.
We tell people all the time, everybody's got their stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we just realize he's got stuff, I've got stuff, you've
Yeah.
got stuff, quit hiding it and
Quit hiding
just
it, yeah.
put it at the feet of Jesus. Seek,
Yeah.
well, you've said at his concert, he said, if you have addiction, if you're in a marriage that you're being shamed, he just kind of went through a list of things and he said, find new friends.
Mm-hmm.
Find a new church. And if you're the person shaming that person, shame on you.
Yeah.
That's just not.
Yeah. If we could.
If we don't have the answers, tell them, I don't have the answers for you, but I'm here for you.
Yeah.
A lot of times people just want to be heard.
That'd be great. Yeah. I imagine a church, where people can come in and say, I'm struggling with this. I have doubts. And totally, like, there's not like, you're ostracized, or like a sense
Or
of
they don't sit down and go, well.
Yeah, right.
You know what?
Yeah,
You know what the church has
intellectual-
become?
Yeah.
The workplace is the new church.
Yeah. Okay.
People
yeah.
at work are much more open with their coworkers. They confide in each other. They help each other. They are there for one another.
Yeah.
To me, I see that's the new church.
Yeah.
It's the workplace because they're real there. They don't walk in like you said. These are the four walls. We've got it all together. We're going
Yeah.
to keep it together here, and that's a good thing because I believe the church needs to go outside the walls.
Right.
But it should also be able to be safe inside those walls.
That would be a huge win for a church in America. I think particularly is to create a culture of love. I mean, I know it's easy to throw that term out, love, but love when you define it in the 1 Corinthians 13, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things. That's different than judgmentalism, condemnation,
Keeps
shame.
no record of wrongs.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting church. That'd be a.
I haven't been to that church yet.
Yeah, no, and yeah, it has to do with leadership, I think, and has to do with the culture that you create. And I think that kind of stuff comes from top down. If you don't have a vulnerable pastor, if you have a pastor who's still telling stories, or like I sinned when I was 11, that's it's not going to get anywhere. But if they,
We've all known those guys.
Yeah,
I've never cussed.
Right. Yeah. but to hear the stuff, the real stuff of today. So my last question for you guys is this: picture, if you, I'm going to ask both of you guys this to answer this independently. We don't have phones here, but just say somebody's calling right now and just say, my daughter has cancer. My son's marriage is falling apart. My teenager is addicted. My daughter's on her deathbed right now. My mom is passing away, or my mom just died. Like, because just picture that type of call coming in. You're taking 2 or 3 in a row. Where does your mind go? I don't want you guys to have answers because we're talking about we don't have answers. But what would you say? What would you say to somebody who's suffering?
Well, see, I don't know what I would say.
Okay.
But what I have done before, and I've seen the Lord show up, is when I've talked to somebody that had a specific thing, I'll say, God, what do you? I pray for them in my own mind, not out loud to them, but I'll say, God, what do you have for me to give them that's from you? What do you have?
So it's not a cookie cutter answer. It's
so it's
like
specific.
That. It's not.
And a lot of times I will feel like, well, you need to go to your church. You need to talk to these people. I'll have specific things, or I will just pray for them, or both.
Yeah.
And so I think it depends on the scenario, and I think it depends on what God gives you for that person.
Great
because
answer, man.
He's so creative. He's so spontaneous.
Wow.
He's so right now.
Yeah.
I think that's what most Christians in the West especially don't accredit anything toward God with, is the fact that he is the God of not only the past and the future, but right now. He's the God of right now.
Yeah.
He can make stuff happen right now. He can call into being things that are not.
Yeah.
And he can do it right now.
Right now. That's powerful. I love that, because I know you enough to know you have sound doctrine. You're a good theologian in your mind, and yet you're not answering that question like a lot of us would intellectually. Here's my theological answer to your suffering. You're doing it through a relationship. Like, now, God, you're here, they're there. We're talking. Be present
What do you want?
bring healing and healing. Even, it's like all of us would love healing more. Like. Prayed for our daughter or son. They made it through.
Right.
But what does healing look like when they hadn't made it through, and you've suffered the loss of someone, whether it be like you with your parents or your daughter? That's a whole nother challenge. Then, okay, what does God do healing now in that? So I'm almost like to hear you. This is weird. Like, call yourself and then pray for yourself. Ask God, what is God saying to Matthew about what he's had to go through? So, Deanne, where's your mind go with that?
For me, it's been a 12-month process, because about this time a year ago was when Megan, I saw, okay, there's a definite break. Their divorce was final. She's living on her own, and I can see the new struggles that she's having. So I'd pray for her every night, and I'd get to the point where it's like, okay, there's no words. So you just say, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus.
Wow.
Then when we wouldn't hear from her, it would be that. And then when she passed, and I couldn't pray, that would be what I would say. And, you can take it a step further. It says, call upon the name of the Lord and you'll be saved. I can be saved from an abusive marriage. Call upon the name of the Lord and save me from this addiction. Call upon the name, just say the name of Jesus. And you say it till you see a breakthrough, till you see an answer. And some of those times, those answers come in relationships. Find somebody who's been through what you've been through.
Yeah.
And if you've been through hard stuff, be available. We want to hide and we don't want to talk about it, but that's not going to help anybody else.
Right.
Is it going to make somebody, is it going to take the pain? Kay Warren was in town and she was talking with us. Does her talking to us take away our pain? No. Does us talking to her about Matthew's passing? No. But we understand each other with words that can't be spoken from similar situations.
Wow. Well, thank you for talking about this today. I think it's going to help a lot of people listening, because there's not one that's untouched by pain, sorrow, and suffering. We don't live in this world and escape that. And the questions you guys have asked, why, and so I did say that was the last question, but I do have one more. So 9 months now. So there's this pail of this weight of the pain and difficult. This thing presses down, like seeds of joy at all, like the moments and glimpses of okay, say there's life and I feel good, and there's some of that kind of come through where you actually feel good.
Well, this is going to sound really weird. I was on my deck the other day. A friend of ours gave us this wind chime, and whenever I hear it, I think of Megan. I'm not saying she speaks to me in the wind, the voice of the chimes. But so the wind picked up and it chimed, and I thought of Megan, and the first thing out of my mouth was, forgive me. And I felt like she said, Dad, I forgive you. For whatever I could have done, didn't do, should have done. I felt like she had offered that to me. And I'm not saying, I didn't, there's not demons in the lampshades. I'm not saying that, but even though there could be, probably I've seen a few. But
I can tell you've been around the church a long time, because you have to qualify every statement you make now.
Well,
because somebody online is going to say you believe in
so
this.
then
and
you're
that,
you're a dispensationalist.
But the heart of it, it's a little bit sad that we have to do that, because the heart of your story is you have this, something's going on in your heart where you feel there's a peace that the Holy Spirit is allowing you to have.
Pieces of it,
Pieces of peace.
Yeah, pieces of peace.
Yeah. Well, we'll be praying for you guys. And I'd ask the people that are listening to this to maybe just take, sometimes on this podcast we ask our guests to pray for those who are out there, but I'm going to do the reverse. I'm going to ask whoever's listening to this to take a moment just right now to put the thing on pause and pray for you guys, and believe that God's got you. And he's there with you, and you can love the fact that you can still say, "It is well, it is well with my soul." When sorrows like sea billows roll. I was going to say pour, but they roll. They roll. They
Whatever's
pour.
my lot, you have taught me to say, "It is well."
It is well.
And you know what? Throughout the day, there's times where it's not,
and
there's times where it's okay, and then there's days where it's well, and there's days where it's not. It doesn't. We live in a fallen, broken world. It's not like something you obtain and then it stays. It's something you have to hold on to and choose to hold on to.
The Gary Wilkerson Podcast is brought to you by World Challenge, transforming lives through the message and mission of Jesus Christ. Each week, this podcast reaches thousands of listeners. This critical work is made possible by the generous contributions of individuals like you who believe in World Challenge's mission. Thank you for listening and supporting.